Alright guys, today we are learning how to divide polynomials. Dividing polynomials. We've already done adding, subtracting, and multiplying. Now we're doing divide. So here's a warm-up. This is a review from Algebra 1. Where you need to divide just monomials. So if we have x to the 6 and we're dividing that by x squared, you could, if you needed to, rewrite this as x times x times x times x times x times x divided by x times x. And then what happens with two of those x's? And we have what left over? X to the 4. Should be 4x. So when you're dividing, you're actually subtracting the exponents. So this one over here, we have -4 divided by 1 for the numbers. Tell me, what is -4 divided by 1? Okay, so we're going to have -4 in front. Those of you that just walked in, come get the notes that we're working on right now. So we should have -4, and then we say we have 5 x's on top, 3 x's on the bottom. Now we have how many left over? X to the 3rd. So we're dividing. Number 3, if we have 10 over 2, and we divide those, 10 over 2, we get 5. And then x squared over x is the same thing as x times x over x. One of them cancels out. So you get 5x. You have to know how to do this to do today's stuff. So this is previous course knowledge. All right, and then the last one, we have 2 over what number for the numbers? 2 over 1, which is 2. And then I've got 9 x's over 1x. And we have 2x to the 8. All right, the other worksheet that you have out is long division from like 5th grade. Remember that? It was a while ago. Can we review long division real fast? Let's look at number 1 on that worksheet that you have out. I'm sorry, nobody really does. Unfortunately, today you don't have an option because we have to divide polynomials. And how are you going to divide polynomials? You can't type x's in the calculator for division.
Ask a smart mathematician.
Well, that's what we're doing right here. All right, remember, on this paper there are steps at the top, but I'm just going to walk you through an example. It's over here. If you didn't get it yet, it's over here. If you didn't get it yet, it's over here. I'm going to walk you through the steps. We take 45, and 45 does not go into 6, but it does go into 68. So how many times? Nope. Just 45. Did you get both of them? Go into 68.
Oh no.
One time. So we put that 1 up there. Then what do we do with that 1? What do we do with the 1? Distribute it. You multiply 1 times 5, and you multiply 1 times 40. All right? 1 times 45. You multiply 1 times 5, and then 1 times 40, and you get 45. Then what do we do? You subtract them. This is long division. We subtract them. So we do 68 minus 45 and get 23. Then what do we do? Then we bring down the 0. Whoa. 0. And then we do the same process again. So we say, how many times does 45 go into 230? Maybe 4, maybe 5. Not sure. So we could try one of them and see. Let's try the bigger one. So if I multiply 5, we do 5. I'll just change the color real fast so you can see it. 5 times 5 is 25. So I bring the 2 over, remember multiplying here. We do 5 times 4, which is 20, plus 2, so 22. So you distribute, then what do? We subtract. You get 5. Then what do we do next? Bring down the 9. And then we repeat it again. How many times does 45 go into 59? 1 time. So we distribute that 1 to the 5 and the 4, so 45. Then we subtract. When we subtract those, we get 14. Okay, now at this point, you learn different things, like you could put in decimals. You could write it just as a remainder of 14, but I've specified that we're going to write it as a fraction over the original divisor. So our final answer is going to be 151, 14 over what we're dividing by 45. Okay, I know that was very fast, but it is definitely a previous course kind of thing. And you have this example plus the example on your paper with all the steps written out. If you forget what to do today, you could always go here. It's going to be the same steps. We're just going to have messier looking division problems. It's going to look crazier, okay? While we do this lesson today, if you do not understand what you are doing, or what I'm doing up there, if you don't understand where I got a number, you got to ask right away. Don't just sit here and take up space and not say anything. Because when I call on you, it's embarrassing that you have no idea what we're doing because you didn't ask a question. So ask questions if you don't know what I'm doing today, all right? I know we're going to have questions. I know we're going to have questions. I know we're going to have questions. All right, go to your notes. I know we're going to have questions.
But we learned this like back in 3rd grade.
Okay.
Long division.
When we do long division, you have to have all the places represented. You have to have all the places represented. So if I were talking about the number 402, if I were talking about the number 402, am I allowed to write that number as 42? No. I have to have that 0 taking up the tens place. Okay? Kind of the same concept, but it's not really just easy numbers, it's a polynomial. But you do have to have all of the places represented. So when you look at the original polynomials that are sitting on your paper, and you look here and you see x to the 4th, and then you see x to the 3rd, and then you see x to the 1st, what am I missing?
X to the 2nd.
I'm missing that. So you have to put that in before you do your work. You have to have that plus 0x to the 2nd in there. You have to have that in there if there's any places missing. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set this up like a long division. What we are dividing by is what goes in front. So I'm going to have x squared plus 3x plus 2. We're going to take that into 2x to the 4th plus 3x to the 3rd plus 0x squared plus 5x minus 1. So we're going to divide those. All right, we're going to start out kind of the same way, where you're only going to divide first term into first term. Now, looking at it this way, sometimes it's hard for us to divide those. So what I do is I take those two terms and I write them off to the side. I write 2x to the 4th divided by x squared. I write it off to the side. And I divide them, just like we did for our warm-up today. What do we get when we divide 2x to the 4th divided by x to the 2nd? We get 2x squared. That is going to go right up there. okay? When we did that in the long division, when we put a number up here, what did we do next with that number? We distributed, we multiplied. So we need to take this number and we need to distribute it to all 3 terms sitting there, all of them. And we're going to put our 3 answers underneath where the like terms are. So I'm going to have 2x squared, and I'll just start with my furthest one out, times x squared. 2x squared times x squared. 2x to the 4th. Then we're going to take our next term, 2x squared, and we're going to multiply it by 3x. So we get 6x to the 3rd. Remember when you give exponent, or when you give x's, the exponents are going to change. So we've got our third one, 2x squared, and we're going to multiply that by 2. So you multiply the 2 and the 2 and write the x squared with it. 4x squared. So we multiply. What's the next step for long division?
Subtract.
Subtract. I have a fun little rhyme. You ready?
Over opposite.
No, it's not a song. You draw the line. You change the signs. You draw the line. You change all the signs. You draw the line. You change the signs. That's subtracting by changing it into adding the opposite. Draw the line, change the signs. That's how we did subtracting before. We changed it into addition and changed all the signs. Draw the line, change the signs. Now we can add them instead of subtracting. Now we can add them. So we add together 2x to the 4th minus 2x to the 4th. Those cancel. We add 3x cubed plus a negative 6x cubed. Negative 3x cubed. We add together 0x squared minus 4x squared. Minus 4x squared. Okay, back in long division. After we subtracted them, then what did we do? We dropped down that next term. So plus 5x. Then we repeated the entire process. So let's repeat it. We now are going to take x squared into negative 3x squared. So if we're not sure what that is, write it off to the side. Negative 3x squared, divide that by x squared. Question. That is totally a cube. Don't know what I was saying. Thank you. Negative 3x cubed divided by x squared. What do we get? We divide those, we get negative 3x. So that's my next term. Minus 3x.
And you distribute.
Okay, I'm going to move these rainbows. I'm just drawing new ones. So now we're going to distribute the minus 3. We're now going to distribute the minus 3x. There. We're now going to distribute the minus 3x into all 3 of those terms out there. So minus 3x multiplied by x squared is a negative 3 and an x to the 3rd, which it should be, because we want the first 2 terms to be exactly the same. And we take negative 3x and we multiply it by positive 3x, and we get negative 9x to the 2nd. And we take negative 3x and we multiply it by positive 2, and we get negative 6x. Then what do we do? Draw the line, change the signs. Draw the line, change all the signs. Draw the line, change the signs, then you can add them up. What do we get? These cancel. Middle is a -4 plus 9, so 5x squared. This last one is a plus 5 plus 6 plus 11x, and drop down the next term. And then guess what? Do it all again. All right. Ooh, so fun, I know. So now we're going to take this x squared and we're going to take it into 5x squared. Not sure what to do? Write it off to the side. 5x squared divided by x squared. What is left over when I divide those? 5. What do I do with the 5? Distribute it to all 3 terms. Running out of space. There we go. So we're going to distribute 5 times x squared, so 5x squared. We're going to distribute 5 times 3x, so that's 15x. And we're going to distribute 5 times 2, so 10. We distributed. Now what should we do?
Let's draw the line.
Draw the line, change all the signs. Draw the line, change all the signs. Draw the line, change the sides, and then
Add them
Add them.
all up.
add them all up. Stop saying what I said. So we got 11 minus 15, negative 4x. And negative 1 minus 10, negative 11. There's nothing else to bring down, so this is our remainder. That's our remainder. To write the answer, we're going to write it as a fraction over the original divisor. Okay, so I'm going to write my answer down here. Final answer. On top of that division bar, we had 2x squared minus 3x plus 5. Then we add. We put a plus sign, and we put our remainder, negative 4x minus 11, over our divisor, x squared plus 3x plus 2. So you just put the remainder over the original divisor, just like you did back in 5th grade when you learned long division.
You missed the call this week.
Oh, it calls me during school time. Okay, are there questions before we try example number 2? Why what? Why is what after? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Okay, so when you divide something like, let's do something really easy, 7, and you divide that by 3. Do you know what that answer is? Do you want 7 divided by 3?
2.333333.
So this would go in 2 times, we get 6, we subtract it, we get 1. So this would be like 2 and 1/3, which is the same thing as 2 plus 1/3. So like if you add on that fraction, but you can't write this next to that, so we just put a plus sign. Why isn't what? Because there wasn't an x? It was just 5. Did you have an X on yours?
I'm looking at you.
All right. Question 2. By the way, this is all we're doing today. I've already gone through all the notes. We're just going to do more practice because
Practice makes perfect.
there's a lot of places you could make just silly mistakes. So let's get it in our head. Let's do another example.
Why don't we practice on the homework though?
Because that's not enough practice to commit it to long-term memory.
So we're gonna do
So
this 30
if you
times?
know what you're doing, you could work further than me, at a faster pace than me, and check answers as you go, if you know what you're doing. I am going to put as many up as I can fit on here, so I can also have the video online for those of us that don't really get this and want to go back and watch those videos. Okay, so I'm gonna work through all these steps, but if you think you got it, work ahead of me. All right, I'll walk around occasionally, and I got answers on here, and you can check them. So for this one, I'm gonna start out by putting x squared minus x plus 1 out here, and then underneath I'm gonna have x to the 4th, and then I notice that there's no to the 3rd. So I have to put 0 x to the 3rd, or I'm gonna run into a problem. Then plus 2x squared minus x plus 5. So notice that I put that 0x third in there because it didn't have it. Then we start dividing, and we're going to divide first the x squared into the x to the 4th. So I'm going to divide x to the 4th by x squared and get x squared. And after we divide, we distribute. After we divide, we distribute, and then it's just multiplying, which we practiced in here. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th. X squared times minus x is minus x to the 3rd. X squared times 1 is x squared. And there's your favorite part. Draw the line. Change the signs. And then we add them. Add them up. Those cancel. We get x cubed plus x squared. So if you add incorrectly, unfortunately, at the point where you make a silly mistake, everything after that will be wrong. Like if I made a mistake here, everything I did after that would be wrong, because that wrong answer is going to affect everything. So we've got to just take our time and pay attention to detail. So now we're going to drop down a minus x and repeat the process. So I now have x squared goes into x cubed. I'm going to put it off to the side. X cubed divided by x squared, that gives me x. Then I'm going to repeat the process. I'm going to distribute x. When I distribute x, I get x to the 3rd minus x squared plus x. And I draw the line, change the signs. And add them. I get 2x to the 2nd minus 2x when I add them correctly. After I add them, I can bring down my next term, plus 5. Repeat the process again. So I'm going to take x squared into 2x squared. 2x squared divided by x squared is 2. What do I do next? After I find the number on top, what do I do with that number on top? Distribute it, distribute it, distribute it. Erase that one. put in a new one. So I'm going to distribute 2 to everything. I'm going to get 2x squared minus 2x plus 2. Draw the line, change the signs. Add them. Those cancel out, and we get 3. Since I have nothing else to bring down, that is my remainder. So we're going to write our answer. X squared plus x plus 1 plus your remainder over your original divisor. Yes, sure.
X squared plus x plus 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't want
I don't know what happened there.
silly goose.
Silly goose, yep. Just making sure that you are paying attention. Good job, Jeremiah. Wait, catch that.
I was about to say scroll up.
Flip it over. Flip it over. Try number 1. Try number 1. Flip it over. Try number 1. If you got number 1, number 2 gets tricky. We're missing some pieces. Oh, you just left a spot. You could do that. You just leave a spot. That would work. So what you're doing is fine. Most people don't get it, so but you do. So you are trying number 1, and then I will work out number 1 so that you have it and it's on the video. Right, I'm going to do x minus 3, take that into x squared plus 6x plus 12, and we're going to start with x into x squared, which is x times. Then we distribute. So I get x squared minus 3x. Then we draw the line, change the sign. And we get 9x. Then we bring it down, plus 12. Then we repeat the process. X into 9x. So I do 9x divided by x is 9. Then we distribute. We get 9x minus 27. Draw the line, change the signs. Add them up, and we get 39. Nothing else to bring down, so we have our answer. X minus 3, nope, just kidding, that's the wrong part. Answer, x plus 9 plus 39 over x minus 3. Okay, I'm going to get you started on number 2 if you haven't started it yet. Number 2 is tricky because it's missing a bunch of things. And I'll let you work on it. Make sure that you're understanding these steps on your own, otherwise ask me questions. When I go to put x squared minus 16 out front, that's missing something. What's this missing? The 0x. So I'm going to actually write x squared plus 0x minus 16 out front. And then underneath, it starts with x cubed minus 4x squared, but what's missing? A 0x and the constant term 0. So you have to have that 0 constant term there, otherwise you're not going to get the right answer. So I'm going to pause the video for a moment. Should I probably just let it record? I'm going to stop talking for a moment so you can try this on your own and see what questions you have so you know what you're not understanding. Let's pause it. All right, let's see. We divide x squared into x cubed, we get x, and then we distribute it, we get x squared. When we distribute this x times 0x, you're multiplying 1 times 0, x. Anything times 0 is 0. So this is going to be a 0x squared here. Then you take your x times minus 16, so minus 16x. Then we draw the line, change the signs. All of them. All of the signs. When we add them, we get negative 4x squared plus 16x. We do the process again. So how many times does x squared go into negative 4x squared? If you're not sure, you write it on top of each other. And that gives me negative 4. Then we distribute it. Negative 4 times x squared is negative 4x squared. Negative 4 times 0 is 0x. You know, I forgot to bring my other guy down, didn't I?
Oh, you said the use.
That's all right. I remembered in time. Then we did negative 4 times negative 16, so that gives us positive 64. So when you multiply by zeros, you got to have a 0 there. Then we draw the line, change the signs. And what do we get? We get crossed out, we get 16x minus 64. And that's our remainder. So when we write our answer, x minus 4 plus 16x minus 64 over x squared minus 16. Question? Yeah.
Is it just because the big ideas might not accept the 0x, you just put that in the...
Well, I just used the original question, so yeah, and I'm not sure if it will accept that 0x or not. It should, but I haven't,
check?
I don't know how to check it either. They don't show me, on the teacher's end, they don't show me all the answers that are accepted. So I find out from you guys when you do it, what's accepted and what's not. How about this one? Do we have anything missing, any zeros missing? Anything X's that are missing in order?
No.
All right, yes, finally. So we're just going to set it up as 4x plus 1. We're going to divide by 4x cubed plus 13x squared plus 27x plus 6. How many times does 4x go into 4x cubed? If you don't know how to start, then write them on top of each other. 4x cubed divided by 4x. What do I get there? Right, the 4's cancel, and one of the x's cancel, so I get x squared. And when you distribute it in, I get 4x to the third plus 1x squared. Draw the line, change the signs. 12x squared. Bring down 27. If you are working ahead of me, you should be checking your steps as we go. What'd you get for your remainder? All right, next we're going to take 4x into 12x squared. So 12x squared divided by 4x. That gives me 3x. Then I distribute it, and I get 12x. squared plus 3x. Did I forget to bring, oh no I didn't. Then we draw the line, change the signs, add them. 24x, bring down 6. Repeat the process, same thing, over and over again. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. 24x dividing by 4x goes in how many times? 6. So we distribute, and we get 24x plus 6. And we draw the line and change the signs. And when we do that, we get 0 for our remainder. So if there is 0 for the remainder, you don't write a remainder. You just write x squared plus 3x plus 6. Because there's no remainder.